So there's at least one mistake in Hogwarts Legacy that can prove quite costly and might ruin your character's progress if you don't pay attention to it. In this video, I'm going to show you 13 more things that you should definitely know about spending your skill points, getting the best loot, and lots more. So if you enjoy it, a like on the video would be really appreciated, and let's dive right in. But to start things off, make sure you plan out how you're going to spend your skill points, because there aren't enough in the game to get all of the talents. On my first character, I thought there would be a way later on to maybe reset them, but Hogwarts Legacy doesn't really offer any of that, at least not at the current time. Once you reach level 40, which is the max level cap by the way, you'll be short of about 8 skill points in total, so that's 8 potentially really strong choices that you didn't even know you could miss. My best suggestion when leveling up is to make a save before you spend your next talent point and test out if the next perk you want to unlock is something that you really like. If you don't, or it ends up being weak, you can just revert back and change it to something else. I don't even know how the devs forgot to add this feature in, but hopefully they'll add it in a future update, so until then, plan out accordingly. Another big mistake you're doing is when facing against higher level enemies, and especially the high difficulty, which is to not upgrade your gear to level 3. In this game, the two different offense and defense stats you find on gear will influence the most how much damage you deal with all of your attacks, but also how much you take back. If you look at the stats, the change is going to be huge. It only starts with 6 extra points at level 1 per gear piece, but at level 3 it adds extra 36. So if you do this for a whole set, that's more than 200 points in extra stats, which is going to make a massive difference. My suggestion is to do this every 5 levels or so and upgrade your gear every time you hit another 5 levels, so that the level difference is going to be significant enough to warrant this, plus so that you don't waste too many crafting mats. At number 3, a major tip to make your attacks deal extremely high damage and basically one-shot almost anything, even on the hard mode, is to stack your traits. They actually do stack with one another, even if you place the exact same one on multiple gear pieces. They do take very little resources to apply, and especially the ones at rank 3 that go on legendary gear will each provide a massive buff to the skills that they affect. So if you like a spell setup a lot, such as the Glacius and the Fando combo we talked about in the previous video, then it makes a lot of sense to specialize into something like Laceration, which with a full setup will basically more than triple your damage with that spell. But if you're undecided, then I suggest going with the concentration trait, also rank 3, which will buff all of your damage spells equally. This won't be as powerful as the more specialized version of the Laceration, but it will feel a lot more balanced and it will buff some of your other attacks as well. Not all general traits are weaker than the specialized ones, however, and for example in the case of the combat plants, as we covered yesterday, the Herbology level 3 trait proved to be twice as powerful as the Fangs 3 when it came to all plant damage, not just the deadly cabbages. And speaking of traits, it's undeniable that the level 3s are what you'll want the most, since legendary gear is so abundant anyway. The problem is that you might not have all the level 3 traits just yet. So to get them a lot more easily, a neat little trick is to save scam your way through it. They all drop from the special containers you find in each bandit camp, but the drops are all randomized on each opening. So a great way is to reload just before you open these chests and keep trying until you get a rank 3 one. In fact, this works with all the chests in Hogwarts Legacy, though for the regular gear I don't really recommend it, since it's going to be mostly a waste of time. At number 5, if you're going to spend points on any talent, then Perfect Protego Mastery is one of the best choices in the entire game and should really not be underestimated. When you press block at the right moment, which is just as the circle is about to close, you'll now unleash this massive shockwave that you see me pulling off in most of these shots. With the Mastery perk in the core line, this will completely shatter all enemy shields in a massive AoE around you, so that you can quickly move on to just using your damaging spells and taking them down quickly. You can even grab the Stupefy expertise to transform Stupefy into a direct damage spell, which means it will deal the same and sometimes even more damage than some of your better combos. Plus, it also looks very satisfying to pull off, since it does affect a very large area. In any case, you likely lost or are about to lose a lot of legendary loot if you don't pay attention how you open certain chests. I covered the ornate legendary treasures before and how these are great at providing a guaranteed legendary drop, but the problem is that you cannot reopen them again once you went through the animation the first time. So let's just say your inventory is filled. As you're about to open one of these, you will even see the message with the red alert popping up in the corner of the screen that your bags are filled. And normally in this case, you would just delete one of the items, make room for it, and reopen the chest to get the item. The problem in the case of the ornate legendary chest is that the animation of opening it will not replay the second time, as the button prompt will now completely miss. As far as I'm aware, this is a bug and only affects these types of chests. Also, the devs could add a really easy fix, but until that happens, definitely make sure that you go with a clear inventory whenever you open these up. Or you can just go in and take the Merlin puzzles, expand on your inventory, and not have to worry about any of these. But moving on, troll enemies are undeniably some of the most annoying in Hogwarts Legacy, and even more so on the hardest difficulty. Especially the armored ones, they have this 3 attack swing chain that for some reason makes them auto track you even when you're very far off. Like, they will literally teleport behind you and you are bound to get hit. And if you get hit by the first or the second attack, there is a chance that you'll eat the full chain as the combo continues and might even risk getting one-shotted. So one way to deal with that is to just pull off an Elden Ring, which is to dodge the first attack and then a second later remember to dodge the second one as well, since it's pretty much guaranteed to come as well. If you happen to be hit by either the first or the second one and fall on your back, remember that the final slam that these trolls do can still be blocked even if your character is technically still lying flat on the ground. You just have to remember to press Protego in time for that. And if you do this on the final hit, you can avoid the death screen, which is going to be quite great. At number 8, you cannot kill what's already dead, and Hogwarts Legacy does have one great attention to detail in that regard. The fact that you cannot use the killing curse on the Inferni, which are these undead enemies that you fight at random times. In fact, the undead are the biggest weakness that the Avada Kedavra spam build has, which is literally going to have no effect against them whatsoever. Even if you curse multiple targets, including non-dead ones, if you primarily cast it on the Inferni, even the adjacent killing beams will not do any damage on the remaining enemies. So instead, you'll want to use fire damage against them, since that's pretty much their only weakness. Now, moving on to number 9, the 3 arenas in Hogwarts Legacy are a great way to farm dueling feats. If you have the deluxe edition, you can just head over in the Forbidden Forest and do the one over there. But for everybody else, there's one more up north, just outside of the forest, and another one south from Irondale that both give you dueling feats for each of the waves of enemies. Most of them are easy too, like defeating trolls with their own boulders or just taking down enemies with certain spells, and you can get its challenge track done in no time for its amazing rewards. This also gives you access to a few gear pieces, including coats and outfits that look pretty nice and are a must-have. Coming up to number 10, Leech Juice is something that you'll use in every single potion that you create in your room of requirement. So an easy way to acquire a lot of these in one go is to just hit the coast by the Black Lake that surrounds the Hogwarts castle. The shorelines are filled with dozens of leeches that sometimes sit in a pack from 3 to 5 very close to one another, and it's easy to just go in at night, do a revalio, and then just grab everything. You're going to get dozens of these in no time so that you can craft all of those nice potions. At number 11, some enemies cast very devastating, almost one-shotting attacks on you, but it's good to know that you can use these against their own teammates. Especially the ones that cast these ground attacks like the lightning strikes. You can bait them into casting them at your feet and then quickly dodge and pull one of their friends in your place just as they're about to unleash it. This works with the goblin spikes coming out of the ground as well, and pretty much any attack that's AoE can be used against other targets instead of wasting your time casting your own spells. Moving on to number 12, at some point in the game you're going to want to have a farm so that you get all of the resources necessary for your upgrades and your build progress. I talked about the importance of having the medium and the large planters for your combat plants before, especially for the deadly cabbages, but you should also not overlook the automated moonstone tables that will generate like 30 moonstones every 12 minutes. And the hopping pots that give you automatic random potions every 12 minutes or so also come in handy quickly, especially if you visit this place often. Similarly, in the vivarium, the final must-have is going to be the automated feeder, so that once you get there, the feeding part of your creatures is done with, and the only thing you need to do more is to quickly use the brush and then instantly grab the crafting mats that they drop for you, which you can of course funnel into the gear upgrades that we talked about before. And finally, at number 13, you can turn off fire with spells such as Glacius as well as vice versa. While there aren't many instances where this is needed, there are a few endgame puzzles that do require precise control over which spot needs to be set on fire and which not. So this is a great way of dealing with that in case you stumble upon one of these puzzles and can't pass it. But this is pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.